I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
Everybody, here we are back with Leaving Earth, the base game with the Mercury expansion. The Mercury expansion is down here. I'm going to play my second game today, and basically I'm now going with the... So it's the second game that I'm playing today. In total it's my third real game. The first one that I videoed was the easy one where I just took 5 easy missions. This morning I played as they recommend for the solo player, which is that you play on setting hard, which means that you get 2 hard cards, 3 medium and 3 easy cards. I'm again playing as the French, because obviously we're European here, so we will choose a European space agency. And we're going to turn over the cards. I don't know what they are. This morning I explored the moon, so I've taken a new moon unexplored tile, but the other ones I didn't explore, so they're still the same as of this morning. Leaving Earth, Ceres sample return, so we need to go to Ceres, we need to land and return it. Man on moon at start of year, lunar station, Mars lander, oh god, working probe capsule on the moon, man on the moon, man in space, Mars survey, man in orbit. Okay, so we have Mars over here. We've got lunar, and man on the moon. Man in space, man in orbit. Okay, so in total we have 21, 33, 40, 54, 59, 61, 65 points on the table, so we need to get to 33 points in order to win. Okay. There's a lot of stuff happening on the moon. Just even putting the stuff on the moon and the man on the moon will give us 2733. And that would also give us a man in orbit automatically. So we're going to concentrate on the moon. And that would also give us a man in space. Okay, so we're going to put this one over here. These 4 together give us 10, 45, 25, 37. But only if we can actually land on the moon. So when we do our man in orbit and man in space, we're going to take a man into lunar space and we're going to do a survey of the moon. And if the moon is a place where we cannot land, all of these get replaced or get removed actually. Then these are not viable. These are not viable missions. Okay. So first of all, we get our money. And by the way, when I said I didn't have any money, I was actually wrong. I do have money, but it's not paper money like I saw it in the other playthroughs, but it's actually money that comes in the form of little cards like the cards that come with the game, so that's why I didn't see them at first. So I do have money, and I'm beginning to think that this may actually be victory points, not money, but I'm going to use this instead because I actually like them. I like the coins. So just in case you were wondering, there was money with the game. Okay, so first of all, what we need is we could go to to lunar flyby and discover what's available on the moon. For this we need a probe, and for this we need, so we're going to buy one probe. We can buy this without any prerequisites, you can always buy a probe. And we would have to launch this probe into Earth orbit. It's got a weight of 8. It's got a weight of 1, difficulty 8. So that's a payload of 8, which we could achieve with 3 Junos, and then we need to go to lunar flyby, which is a difficulty of 1. Oops. So we have a payload of, so we've got difficulty, that's lunar flyby, back to Earth orbit. That's difficulty 1. No, sorry, from Earth orbit to, okay, so that's where we need to go. Difficulty 1 and payload 1. We could do this with 1 Juno. And a Juno weighs 1. So we have a total payload of 2, 8, 1. So we have a payload of, for difficulty 8, of 2, which is 16. And 16 would be carried by we could use 2 Soyuz to do this. And a Soyuz is 8 and a Saturn is 15. Either 2 Soyuz or 1 Saturn, and that would be cheaper. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Juno rockets and Saturn rockets as our first, oh sorry, we bought the probe, as our first research topics. So we're going to draw 3 outcome cards each. Which leaves us with 4. And we're just going to invest these 4. We're going to buy 2 more probes and 2 Junos. No, we're actually going to buy 4 Junos. And then we are in 1957. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our money back. and we're going to launch a Juno rocket into suborbital flight without a payload. That's fine, we don't need to do anything, and we're going to check the outcome, and it's a minor failure, so it comes back, it's broken, but it's not destroyed, so we put this away, we pay the 5. Then we're going to launch another one, going to draw, and it's a success, which we're going to duly remove. And then we're going to use one more, and that is also a success. So we don't need to remove this because we know it's a success, but I just remove it from the card anyway because we know it will be a success anyway, so it doesn't clutter the card. But of course the rocket itself is burnt up. So then we have Saturn rockets, which we can't afford because we only have 10. We've 8 left. We're going to spend 5 on an astronaut because we're going to need one anyway. We have 5 more left, so we're going to buy 3 Junos, and we're going to buy 2 probes. Oh no, we're going to get a... No, we don't have that one, so we're going to get 2 probes. Oh, we're going to get 1 more probe and 1 Juno. Okay. Next year. The 1 Juno that got destroyed, damaged, is now repaired. Okay. So let's get a couple of Saturn rockets. Each one is 15. So we're going to just leave 15 in the bank. And we're going to launch it. And what we're going to do is we are going to... No, we're not. We're just going to launch this one and see what happens. And it's a success. Which we're going to remove. Next year. For 15 we're going to buy a Saturn and we're going to launch it. And it is a success. So we're going to remove it for 10. 1 year is up. Going to do the same thing again. And that was a major failure. We're going to remove that one. So now going forward, all of our Juno rockets and Saturn rockets will be fine. We've got 5 left, which we are... Yeah, which we can't do anything with, so we're just going to leave it. So we're now in 1961. So we're going to get a Saturn rocket for 15. We're going to build a spaceship. On that spaceship, we're going to put a probe. And we're going to put in 1 Juno rocket. So we need to go to Earth orbit with a payload of 2, which has a difficulty of 8, and we have a payload of 2, so that's 16, and 1 Saturn rocket can actually carry a payload of 5, so we will be fine going up there. So this rocket fires and we reach here. Then this rocket, the Juno, fires, and we are now with our probe in lunar flyby, and we're going to use this lunar flyby to explore the moon. And I'm not sure right now we now need to spend 10 to get the surveying. Which only has one outcome card that we need to draw. We're gonna use it straight away and it's a success, so that's cool. So this one was successful. And we can now survey the moon. Valuable minerals sample on Earth. So it means we can actually land on the moon, which is good. So this means that these are all viable missions. Now, in order to do any of these things, we need to first of all have re-entry. And, well, first of all, we have to have landing in order to be even able to land on the moon. And since we would like to take the person back that is on the moon, we would like to have re-entry as well. And life support because he wants to be on the moon at the beginning of the year. So we have to have him there twice. So what we're going to do is we have the new year now, 1962. So we get our money. So first we have to have landing, which we pay 10 for, and we draw 3 outcome cards. 1, 2, 3. And we also need re-entry. For which we also have to pay 10 and 3 outcome cards. So what we're going to do is we have 5 left. We can get a Vostok capsule for 2. And we could put Neil Armstrong onto that Vostok. So it's a payload of 2 because Neil Armstrong doesn't weigh anything. And we could try and get him into Earth orbit for a difficulty of 8. And we have a payload of 2. And that would require 1 Saturn. We can't afford a Saturn. So we are going to buy one more Vostok for this. However, I'm wondering, if I take this back. Yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. Okay, so now we're in 1963. We get our money back. We're gonna take a Saturn for 15. Gonna build a spaceship to put the Vostok into Earth orbit. With Neil Armstrong in it. We know that this will be successful. And now we can do re-entry for 0. And that was a major failure. However, we've got Neil on board and he has the +1 to, oh, he doesn't. Oops. So Neil Armstrong, unfortunately, is dead. So, yeah, but at least the major failure is, why didn't I actually put him on it? He doesn't actually need to be on it. Yeah, well, I did. That was stupid. So, major failure, but we get rid of it. So, unfortunately, Neil Armstrong died. That's too bad. So I guess I'm going to get another astronaut next year. So that's actually -2 victory points. We get the money back. This time around, we're just going to send a Saturn rocket with a Vostok capsule without a person into Earth orbit, paying 15. And we're just going to do re-entry. And that was a success. We're going to remove that one too. And we will actually be able to test the landing and see what happens there, and it's a success. So at least the Vostok capsule stays with us. Of course, we have to mix in the success again, so we haven't really, we know there is one success in there, but we will have to redo all of this. Okay, so next up is next year, 1965, 25. So let's see. We would like to put a working probe or capsule on the moon. We could do this totally without re-entry and stuff, but it is dangerous and we would need to do a landing. So we could put a Vostok capsule that would be a 2, payload of 2, difficulty 2. That would be two Junos. Then we have the no, I can actually just put a probe in there. So that would be, because it doesn't have to be a human being in there, so we can send a probe for 1. That's going to take actually just one Juno is enough for this maneuver. And then we would need to get from Earth orbit into lunar orbit with a payload of 2 and difficulty 3. So for that we would need one Atlas. I'm going to buy the Atlas rocket. Research. And an Atlas rocket weighs 4. So we have one payload of 6 to go up by 8. And that would be 2 Saturns. Okay, and 1 Saturn is 15. Okay, so then it's the next year, it's 1966. Kennedy's long dead. Gonna bring this back. Buy another Saturn for 15. And buy 1 Atlas for 5. Doesn't matter if I cry. And I've got a Juno rocket, so what we're going to do is we're going to build a spaceship. We're going to launch it from Earth into Earth orbit. Two Saturn rockets will push 5 payload, will push 10 payload across the threshold of 8 difficulty. Our payload is 6. Then we're in Earth orbit. We need to go to lunar orbit, which has a difficulty of 3. And for a difficulty of 3, 1 Atlas rocket will push a payload of 5. Our payload is 2, so that's done. But now we have to draw and see what happens to the Atlas rocket. And it's a success. We're lucky, but we can't get rid of it because we only have 5. So now we're going to need to go to lunar orbit, and we have a payload of 1, and 1 Juno can push a payload of 1 across a difficulty of 2, so we're good there. And now we have to do a landing. Let's see what happens. And it's a success. We can't get rid of it, unfortunately, because we only have 5. But we have now put a probe successfully onto the moon. And this means we have a lunar lander. It's a working probe capsule on the moon. So we take this as our first victory point. So all of these now need to be mixed in again. And we know we have a 1 in 3 chance off the bat to get the landing successfully done. Now, you may wonder how I do this. Well, what I do is I mix them up, so I shuffle them, but then I also roll a die because, you know, it might be possible for me to remember which one was which. So in the next year, what we would like to do is we would like to put a man on the moon, keep him there, and then bring him back for a year. So we would need life support, and does life support actually weigh anything? Is this something you put in? Probably not, is it? But we need supplies. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to need supplies. We may actually get an eagle capsule. Okay. And then we have one left. So we're now in 1967. Oh, we'll just buy one Juno, just for the hell of it. Okay, so. We would put an eagle here, and it's got a payload of 1. And we would like it to leave the moon again for a difficulty of 2. Since it's quite light, we would require only 1 Juno to actually make this happen. So Moon to lunar orbit has a difficulty of 2 and a payload of 1, requires 1 Juno. A Juno weighs 1 as well. So for the maneuver to bring it down to lunar orbit, to the moon, lunar orbit to moon has a payload of 2 and a difficulty of 2, for which we would require, we could do this with 2 Junos. And then the next maneuver would be from Earth orbit into lunar orbit, which is a difficulty of 3. No, sorry, then we need to go from lunar orbit to Earth orbit, which is going to be a difficulty of 3. And the payload at this stage would be 4. And to manage a payload of 4 across a difficulty of 3, we need 1 Atlas. Then we have to do it the opposite way. Earth orbit to lunar orbit is also a difficulty of 3. But at this stage, the payload is 4 plus 4, 8. So to move 8 across a difficulty of 3 is takes 1 Soyuz or 2 Atlas. How much is a Soyuz? It weighs 9 and 2 Atlases weigh 8. However, Soyuz we fully tested. No, we haven't got them at all, so we take 2 Atlas. 2 Atlas. Then we're only in Earth orbit. From Earth orbit to go down to Earth, you pay 0. So that's fine. But then we have a total payload of 8 plus 8 is 16. And that is Earth to Earth orbit. And that's a difficulty of 8. And to push 16 across 8, you need 4 Saturns. Okay, it's going to be costly. The Saturns are not a problem. It's the Atlases that I'm afraid of. So we're going to do the following thing. And let's see if we can put a man into orbit. Okay, so let's take a Vostok capsule, which is a payload of 2. Put John Glenn in charge of it. And to put a payload of 2 into Earth orbit is going to require it's not going to help us because it doesn't require Atlases at all. Well, it's 16 that you need to put in there, and an Atlas rocket. Two times 8 is 16. And an Atlas rocket can give you 27. Thrust minus the 4 for its own weight is 23. That's enough. So we're going to buy an Atlas rocket. Let's see, should we get an engineer? I think we should get an engineer because an engineer will allow us to... no. Okay, we will just risk it. We're going to send the Vostok up with an Atlas rocket. And we're going to see what happens to the Atlas rocket, and it's a success, which we're going to remove for 10. But we also put a man into orbit. Man to Earth, orbit and back. So he's in Earth orbit now. We're going to take him back. Well, first things first. So now he's going to do re-entry. And that's a major failure. Oopsie. Okay, so they're all dead. So that didn't work. So we're now at -4 points already. Burning through them really quickly, no pun intended. But we did pay the 5 to get rid of this failure. So now we have 5 left, and we're going to buy an Atlas for this. Next time round, no problems with re-entry. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to fire an Atlas rocket, and it's a success, and we're going to get rid of this paying 10. And then we're going to buy another one. And that's also a success, which we don't have to remove because it doesn't make sense. So now we're going to hire another astronaut, Shepherd, and we're going to buy another Atlas rocket. And to pull off our stuff going to the moon, we require 3 Junos, 3 Atlas, and 4 Saturns. Okay, so next year, 1969, we get all of our money back. We need 4 Saturns. A Saturn is 20. It's 15, sorry. So we get 1 Saturn. And we have 10 left, so we're going to get, we need how many Atlases? We need 3 Atlases in total, so we're going to buy 2 Atlases. 1970 rolls around. We're going to buy another Saturn. And we are going to get a Vostok for 2. Going to strap it to a Juno. Going to put Alan Shepard on it. And a Vostok can, sorry, a Juno can, oh, Juno can only take 1. Okay, so we need 3 Junos to propel a payload of 2. And we actually need 6. Could also use an Atlas. Atlas is 5. Yeah, so we're going to take back this one. I'm going to take an Atlas rocket, strap the Vostok to it, pay 5. And then we're going to do a maneuver into Earth orbit. And we're going to try and land again. And that's a success. Okay. Next year rolls around. We really only need landing. So we have 3 Saturn rockets now. Gonna buy 1 Atlas rocket. Gonna do the same that we did just now. Go into Earth orbit. And gonna go down again and land. So you've got 3 possible outcomes. We're gonna roll a die. So 3, so it's this one, and it's a success. I'm beginning to think that these are all successes. Okay. For the 5, we're gonna buy another Atlas, and we're gonna do it again. No, we're not gonna do it again because we couldn't even remove it if we wanted to. So now it's 1972. We pay 15 to get another Saturn rocket. And then we have 3 Junos. So we're going to start building a spaceship. We have an eagle. We need 3 atlases. And we need 4 Saturns. And then we're going to put a man on this one. But before we do this, what we're going to do is we're going to take an atlas, put something into Earth orbit, namely Shepherd or Vostok, let it come down, and we will do a landing maneuver. And it's another success, which we're going to get rid of. Well, sorry, yeah, we're going to get rid of it. 10. Next year rolls around. Going to do the same again. Atlas. 6. That's a failure. It's a minor failure, but since we have somebody who is a helmsman, this becomes a success. So we actually land, but we're going to pay 5 to get this done and dusted, and then we're going to buy another atlas. Going to do the same thing again. Going to come down and check the last outcome, and that is a success. So there were 2 successes in there. So that's good. So now what we're going to do is we are going to buy for 10. We're going to get 2 we're going to get life support. Put 3 outcomes on this. 1974 runs around. We get the money. We have to buy supplies. For 1. And now we're going to try this. We have a spaceship. Which contains an Eagle capsule and Alan Shepard and supplies. So the total payload of the actual spacecraft that we would like to land and bring back is 2. The total payload of what we're going to fire from Earth is 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. We've 4 Saturns, that's going to be 12, 14, 15, 17. That's going to push a payload of 20 altogether into Earth orbit. Bop. We now have a man in orbit. He's not back yet. Then we have a payload of still the 2. In order to get from lunar orbit, from Earth orbit to lunar orbit, the difficulty is 3. At the moment, we have a payload of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. And 1 Atlas rocket can negotiate a payload of 5 across a difficulty of 10. We're going to fire 2 Atlas rockets, and then we're in lunar orbit. We have a man in space. Now we need to land on the moon. This requires a payload of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to be pushed across 2. And in order to do this, you need 1 Atlas rocket. We're here. Now we need to wait. We need to wait a year. So we're gonna, we're going to need one of our little egg timers. Sorry, that's not the egg timer. This is the egg timer. We have all this money. We're going to buy a Saturn. And then we're going to keep 10. So now we're at the end of the year. We now test life support. And it's a major failure. Oopsie, I think someone just died. The occupants die. Unfortunately, Shepard is dead. We're in 1975. All of the money comes back. These ones are now all basically, essentially lost. They're just sitting in space. That's too bad. But what we're going to do is we're going to take an Atlas rocket. We're going to strap a Vostok to it. And a Juno. I'm going to buy a Juno. That's 5 times 8 is 40. Well, he can't really do that. But he would be able to do this. So we're going to push a Vostok into space, into Earth orbit, with an Atlas rocket. We're going to buy a Saturn rocket. And we're going to buy another Atlas rocket, and we're going to do a life support check, and it's a success. It's not what we wanted, but okay. Okay, so next year, 1976, it's the last year. And we cannot really make it. We can't really win this because we don't have enough money and enough time to get 2 more Saturns that we would need to redo the whole maneuver. But what we're going to do is we are going to check what happens on our life support. And that would be this, the first one. That's a success. I'm going to check the second one as well. And that is a major failure. Yeah, so he had 1 in 3 chance to survive. He didn't. And now it's 1970, and now it's over. The game is essentially over. So I really enjoy this game. It is very tough. I honestly don't know how this would play with more players, because I would imagine that you have a lot of downtime on everyone else's turn while they're planning on what they are doing. Because, you know, everybody would probably plan which missions to undertake, but if somebody else is doing the same mission as you are doing, but you don't know it, but they're just planning it, and you can't really tell what they're doing because they might just be testing, you know, it's not clear necessarily what they are doing, you could, I guess, end up with, you know, a lot of, I guess, waiting around. So I'm not sure how this would play with more people. I'm not saying that it's not a game that's not for multiplayer, because clearly it was also created as a multiplayer game, but I'm honestly not sure how this would work. I think it would require a lot of patience and just waiting for other people to make their move while, you know, you're planning on something which you may in the end not be able to attain because somebody else managed to snatch this particular mission away from you. So I'm not sure how this would play. If you've played this multiplayer and you would like to comment on your experiences with this game multiplayer, I would be very interested, not because I'm interested in playing multiplayer games, it's not like I'm trying to find out if I could sell this to anybody, because nobody I know would actually enjoy this game. They are not really that interested in exercising their minds like this, but yeah. So if you've ever played this on your own with someone, do let me know, because I would like to know how this plays multiplayer, because I can't imagine what this would be like. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.